Hey guys, what's up? It's Will here once again for another UFC fight card prediction. We're here for UFC on ESPN. Rob Font against Marlon. Chito Vera is our main event this week. Apologies, I've not been around for the last two cards. I've had a lot of work stuff going on. I also had YouTube wouldn't let me post for some reason, which was a little bit weird. But yeah, I'm back for this one here. And I'm going to give you probably my quick picks for, I want to see the prelim side of things, and then in the main card, maybe I'll go a little bit more in depth. But like I say, I've not looked into probably most of the prelims in all honesty, just a little bit here and there over the last week or so, just when I've had the time to do so. And we're making our way onto the pay-per-view next week, which could be one of the cards of the year with an unbelievable couple of title fights in that one there. So yeah, I'm quickly going to run through the preliminary card here, give you my picks, and then we'll kind of go from there. In the flyweight division, we've got Tatsura Tiara, undefeated, 10-0, coming from Japan, against Carlos Candelario. Tiara is a guy that I've kind of knew about for a couple of years. The guys that look into prospects a lot more than I do, and they've had this guy coming up, and they think he's really, really good at an elite. I don't want to say elite, but a very good guy if he gets you in the right positions, if he can get you your back or whatever, in spots like that, to rear naked choke, whatever, he can take you out from that. And you can see that in his fights. He's very good at making his way to the back and very good at kind of maintaining back control. And like I say, this is to me a big jump up because the opposition that he was really facing over there in Japan, although it's very weak, they've not got the worst records out there. I mean, you've got a 12-5-1, 30 and 18. I know that's a lot of losses in there, but at least it's not kind of losing records, which a lot of guys you see come to the UFC have. But like I said, I don't see a hell of a lot with the striking that I like. But like I said, I've not looked into him all too much. When I'm looking at the betting lines, I think Candelario was actually a really live fighter in this one here. I think his line is super high. I thought his fight against Altomar Marano, I think is how you pronounce it. I thoroughly enjoyed that fight. I thought it was a pretty close fight, obviously. He comes in there, it's a split decision. But I was thinking, am I going to take the dog one? I'm just like, I'm not sure. Like minus 250, minus 275, like he is here in the UK. That's high for me in a UFC debut. Candelario, like I say, he's been around it in some good organizations, had a couple of fights on Dana White's Contender Series, won one, lost one. I think I'll go with Tiara to win this one. I think he'll win a competitive decision, but in all honesty, I don't really. I'll definitely not be betting that fight. I'll definitely not be betting this fight either. Gina Mazzani against Sheena Young. I'm going with Gina Mazzani, not super confident in her if it gets extended and she starts to get kind of beat up a little bit, but she should have enough for Sheena Young. In my opinion, I don't think Sheena Young should really be in the UFC, so Gina Mazzani will be the pick there. Natan Levy against Mike Breeden. I like Levy in this one here. I think, again, this could be another kind of competitive fight where it could be, I don't want to say relatively close, but I think it could be a very well fought fight from both guys where they're very, they'll have spots throughout the fight. And I'm just a little bit, I'm not too sure Breeden's like a UFC caliber fight. I think Natan Levy, I think he can move himself into being one of those kind of UFC fighters. Like I say, these guys are coming in so like young into the UFC now or like inexperienced with like low records, 4-0 and 5-0, and they need to be out there and maintaining sorry, I shouldn't say maintaining, but learning about the sport in general a little bit more, getting more fights, getting more experience before coming to the UFC. Natan Levy, I thought he fought a competitive fight against Rafa Garcia. We've seen that he's a very tough guy and solid, and if you're not in the game, he will beat you and he will take you out. I like Levy in this one. I think that it's a good bounce back spot against Breeden, who's also coming in here after a loss to Alexander Hernandez. I think that was very short notice, but I don't think he's fought the greatest of guys out there in the regionals before that. Anthony Romero's a guy that actually had a highlight reel knockout at the weekend there. For me, I'm going to take Natan Levy. I think he could get a late stoppage, but more likely, I think he reigns in the decision. So I've got Natan Levy there. Gabriel Green against Yohan Lainesse. I've actually bet against Yohan Lainesse before. I bet Justin Burlinson in the fight in the Contender Series, and he came out there and wiped the floor with Justin Burlinson, who I think is a really good, solid fighter. I think we will see him in the UFC. He's the Cage Warriors welterweight champion. Defends his belt in June, I believe, against Reese McKee, former UFC fighter. So it's a big fight there. We may see him. He's just coming off a really good fight himself, a back and forward fight with Skabinski. But this guy's shown he's got big power. I think he's fought fairly decent opposition out there. Gabe Green, everyone seems to be on Gabe Green every time I go onto Twitter. There's someone else betting this dude. And I can see why people are betting him in the spot. He's been bet up now. I can't remember what the line was. Pretty tough fighter. Gives his all in every fight. 10-3, fought some really tough guys in the UFC. I don't want to say he's competed with them. That's probably what I should say. Is that he's competed with guys like Daniel Rodriguez, Phil Rowe, who he beat last time out. Used his low kicks very, very well there. And now he's got Yohan Lainesse. Like I say, I'm just going to bring up his record here and tell you the kind of guys he's been beaten to get there. Like I say, I really like Justin Burlinson. I think he's going to be a solid fighter. That's a good win. Fought through the CWFC promotion at 12-4, 4-0, 4-2. So not the best records. 12-4 is always a nice one to have in there. But he has finished a couple of those guys. He's got a standout flying knee as well. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Lainesse here. I think there could be that kind of thing there where if he doesn't land his power shot early, then he could gas out and Gabe Green could really come out there and really put it on him. But I've watched an interview this afternoon with Gabe Green saying, dude had a heart attack. I mean, dude had a heart attack. And from what I hear, it's pretty severe. He was in a lot of trouble. I think it was in the gym and all that. I didn't like that, how that sounded. But fight-wise, I think that, I don't know, I've just got this feeling that Lainesse is going to really kind of trouble him in this spot here. And when I look at the kind of the fight a little bit, I think that Green should really run away with it. But I've got that feeling, like I said, I don't think I'm going to bet it, but I'll go with Yohan Lainesse to win that fight there. I think he's a dog in that one, so I'll pick him that spot. Daniel Lacerda against Francisco Figuriredo. I don't think little Figgy's all that great. I think all the talent went to the brother's side there. Lacerda is a guy that I think should be the favourite in this fight. I believe he is the favourite in this fight. 11-2 record. Obviously, both guys out of Brazil. I thought he gave a fairly decent account of himself in his UFC debut before getting knocked out by the main man, Jeff Molina. Caught a right hand there and got put down, but he is super aggressive. He comes forward, he throws heavy heat. I think he's going to have too much for Francisco Figueiredo, who, like I say, I think if we get to this spot next year and he's still in the UFC, I'll kind of be a little bit surprised at that, all honest. I don't think he's super talented. Losing to Malcolm Gordon's just not a good look at all. Got his win over Jerome Rivera, who I think is very kind of, I think he's dangerous, but I don't think he's UFC caliber. I'm going to go Daniel De Silva Lacerda in that spot there. Alexander Romanov against Chase Sherman's been rescheduled after last week's palaver. That really pissed me off with the whole DraftKings thing. It really did. It was rough. I lost every cent that I put into that fight card last week because it was super heavy on Alexander Romanov. I don't think my teams were all that great anyway, but it would have I would have got at least some money back if Romanov was got a fight now. I thought he would have scored pretty decently, but it is what it is. He should roll over Chase Sherman here. Just don't get complacent. I think he runs through him. So Romanov, round one, round two, is where I would be looking at sports there. I think he's like minus 20, 23, 2,500. He's the biggest bet line, I think, in UFC. So that's kind of wild. But I'll pick Romanov there. Krzysztof Jotko against Gerald Meerschart. On Sunday, I was watching this and I'm thinking, I think Gerald Meerschart is live in the spot, and I still think he is. But I also think that Jotko can just do just do what he does, and it's just fight close, land more strikes, mix in with some takedowns with some control, and just get to the judges' scorecard. And he's one of those guys, if he's in a competitive fight, he always seems to get the judges' approval and get the win through that. He just does enough. I think if I'm Gerald Meerschart, I'm looking to kind of create some carnage in this fight. Make it kind of sloppy, a brawl if you can. Try and tire out Jotko and try and get him, see if you can pull guard, get him to the ground and try and use that jiu-jitsu that Meerschart is kind of known for. I really wanted to pick Gerald Meerschart, but I just think that Jotko's just going to weasel this one. I think he's going to do enough over in 2 rounds to kind of get a close 29-28 decision. So Jotko's going to be the pick there. Darren Elkins against Tristan Cornell. I want to say that Darren Elkins is going to start like going downhill relatively soon. The guy is 37 years old, been in a lot of fights, beating some fairly decent fighters in his time. Your Michael Johnson, your Dennis Bermudez, Bektic back in the day. That was a big shock. But the toughness is always going to be there with this guy, but he just can't really take the damage anymore. And you've seen that against Cub Swanson when he got caught with that wheel kick, and then Swanson followed up. But Swanson's still a decent, solid fighter. But you look at his 2 wins, Derek Minor, Gary Gorey got his 2 stoppages there in rounds 2 and 3. They're a step below what he was facing back in your days with your Bermudez, your Johnson, your Bektic, and you go into your Volkanovski, your Lamas. They were definitely step downs, and he got the wins he's supposed to. Tristan Cornell, it's kind of hard to really be sure what to do with this guy for the simple reason that he's been out a long time. Come into the UFC with that massive win, massive shock upset of Michel Pereira, where Pereira just gassed himself out, and Connelly got some takedowns, got some top time, and really put it to Michel Pereira for all the showboating and got a massive win. Came back against Pat Sabatini. Sabatini's a tough matchup for a lot of guys. He matches up pretty well with a lot of people, does Sabatini. And you've seen that recently with his win. Was scheduled to face Amir Khani. I think that was a fight he could have won. I just see Elkins just doing a little bit more here. But if he can come out here, hurt Elkins, put it on him a little bit, just stifle him, then I think that he could potentially get the win. But I'm more on the Darren Elkins side there, so I'm going to take him for the win there, Darren Elkins. This is a good fight. This is one of the fights I'm looking forward to. 2 guys coming from 2 of the elite camps down there in Florida. Jared Gordon at Sanford MMA against Grant Dawson, now out of American Top Team. This is interesting for the simple reason that we know that Jared Gordon is a staple of Glory MMA and Fitness out there in Missouri with James Krause, and he's pretty much a guy that's came through James Krause and came up with him. He's a guy that you see in the corner of numerous fighters that come from that gym, but now him and his missus have decided to move themselves out to South Florida, I believe it is, and now he is a member of American Top Team, which I think will give him great looks. They'll have many more sparring partners, better sparring partners, you could say. But I'm just interested to see what it is, because there's a lot to like with Grant Dawson. I've been liking this guy for years, way back in the day when he was fighting Victory FC in 2015. I was saying this guy is going to be a good fighter in the UFC, and he's shown that, and he's got a couple of really nice performance bonuses, some big-time knockouts, late knockouts, some big stoppages, and he's fought solid opposition. You look at his resume in the UFC, Julian Erosa. On his day, Erosa can be a motherfucker to fight in there. He can be a really tough guy to face. Trezano, tough, hard guy to get out there. Got him out there in the second round, though. Minor, I think they're teammates now, or ex-teammates it would be because he's moved, but a guy that first round of bust could catch you in a guillotine. I think he gave it his shot. Never really got close. Narimani, he was always going to beat that. And then Santos, he got that inevitable step up. Then he went to a draw with Ricky Glenn there. So, and Jared Gordon is a guy that I think could give him problems. He's a guy that, I've always thought of him as a little susceptible to getting maybe knocked out. and in his UFC losses, I mean, he's lost 3. He's got knocked out in 3, all being against big banging Brazilians that seem to be kind of find his chin regardless there. But he's won 3 fights in a row in the last couple of years. Chris Fishgold, I don't think he fights anymore. Danny Chavez, which was one I think he was an underdog and I bet him in that spot. And then Joe Selecki, I think I bet him in that spot. So he's a guy I like betting on, and he can fight close as well. And he could give Grant Dawson problems. I think he can grapple with him. I think he's got the better overall striking. I'm still not sold on Grant Dawson striking, but his grappling, his scrambling is pretty legit. I think I don't think I'm going to go with Jared Gordon here. I think I'm going to go with a kind of close decision from Grant Dawson, but I think that Jared Gordon could give him problems. For me, if I was probably going to bet aside, I don't know what the line is. I've not looked at the line for this fight. I'd probably lean on the Gordon side. I know he was an underdog a couple of days ago. I would assume there's probably more money coming in Dawson. But don't kind of write off Jared Gordon. I think he is live to be in this fight and potentially make it a lot closer than what I know some people think. So Andrei Fili against Joanderson Brito. I think the line's high in this one. I'll come out straight out the bat and say that. Minus 300 he was. That's super high. I think Brito's a banger. He's a guy that comes in there, very physical. I bet him last time out. He was like minus 125. And I thought he was in a very good spot there and really just got outworked in that fight there where he kind of faded off and Algeo really kind of started to put to him through it kind of in the later part of that fight and really won that fight with a lot more output and just being in the fight more than what Brito is. But Brito's always a guy that's going to be down to throw heavy leather, big punches. For me in this spot, if I had to bet it, it's dog or pass. Fili's a guy that's a little bit kind of flaky. I think he has spots where he could be really, really good, and he's shown that he can be really good. But there's also times when he just doesn't look all that great, in my opinion. But, I mean, he's got some decent wins. A win over Jordan's a good win. He got hit a few times in that fight. Shimon Moraes, I always think, will be a good win. Miles Jury, he kind of fell off a cliff. And then he lost that split to Michael Johnson, which was very, very close as well. Last L was against Bryce Mitchell, who we know what Bryce Mitchell's all about now. So I'm going to go Fili. Like I said, I don't like the betting line. Dog or pass to me betting-wise, but I think Fili could just have enough experience here to kind of come through and get a win. But I'll be honest, I'm not super confident in that. Andrei Arlovski against Jake Collier. I actually quite like Jake Collier in this fight. I think that he could have enough output to really give Arlovski problems. And if Arlovski can't kind of get that long kind of jab off, land it well a little bit, I think that Jake Collier, to me, he looks like he's in the best spot of his career, or his recent career, I should say, because he did look decent way back in the past there, where he was at middleweight, and then I think he moved up. But he's one of these guys that kind of trades wins and losses, and he's due for an L, coming off a win over Chase Sherman. Before that, lost a very close split to Carlos Felipe there, where I think he's a little bit unlucky. He could have got his hand raised and beat Gian Villante before that. But this is a big fight from. This might be the biggest fight of his career against a legit veteran, a legend in Andrei Arlovski. I think he's just going to do enough over the 15 minutes. But Arlovski does fight very well in those 15-minute fights where if the rounds are close, he always seems to kind of get the judges on his side in them ones and just does enough. So I'm going to pick Jake Collier. I'm not super confident. Again, I won't be betting any part of that fight. But I'll pick the underdog in Jake Collier on that one there. In the main event of the night, Marlon Vera against Rob Font is your main event. I have a bet in this fight. I laid it down early Sunday morning. It was the first fight I watched when I woke up and the kids were still asleep. So I've got plus 125 on Marlon Vera. I've got my money down on him there. I really just like what I've seen recently from Marlon Vera. He's really turned himself into a legit ranked bantamweight fighter, beating some good guys, showing that he can take guys out. I would never have put him like for that. When you go back to his UFC debut, his early fights, some of the lower caliber guys he was fighting, I thought he looked a little bit ropey in a lot of those fights. Decided to move himself out to America, and he's really, as a professional, he's came on night and day, and he's dangerous, got output, got big strikes, and eventually he made that jump up. He continued to beat the guys that he should lose to. He lost to, your John Lineker, your De Silva Andrade, your Song Yadongs, your Jose Aldos. They're the guys that you would think would beat Vera. But the guys that he should be beating, your Burens, your Kinetis, your Frankie Sainz, your Hernandez, he's beating those guys and running through those guys. And he's made that progression with his confidence that he's just kept on going, beat Andre Ewell, then got the step up against Song Yadong, was just outclassed. Great fight. Nearly kind of come away with that then when he hurt Yadong. And a guy that I think later in the fight is going to be right in this. So I'm a little bit hoping he starts quicker, because he is a guy that starts slow. He needs to kind of get hit a few times, and then eventually once he makes his reads, he's a guy that can really put it on and hit you and can hurt you. Got that win over Sugar Sean, which I think I cashed him as a good dog there. And his last two wins over Davy Grant. Davy's a tough fighter. Like, he bombs on people, throws heavy leather, got that L back that he took back in the day. And then he obviously has got that kind of landmark front kick against the legend Frankie Edgar. Like I say, Rob Font is a guy that he's also come into his own in the division. Got a lot that you will like with his striking. And he, like I say, he's coming off that L to Aldo, but Aldo's just one of those guys, man. He's, no matter what division he goes in, he's going to beat good fighters. He's going to establish himself as one of the top guys in the division. And there is no harm in losing to Jose Aldo, because, like I say, he is one of the legends of the sport. But before that, beating former champions and Cody Garbrandt, number one contender, and Marlon Moraes, good win over Ricky Simone there. So he's in the best spot, and if he can establish early, I think he can maybe bank early rounds. But I can see Cheeto coming on late. I actually think Cheeto's going to hurt him in this fight, and I know that. I mean, he's not been hurt in a long time. He's not been stopped in a long time. I want to say it was a way back. Was it Lineker that beat him? No, it wasn't. He never stopped him. I'm missing someone. Was it Pedro Munoz? I think it was. I can't really remember now, but that's going back 4 or 5 years. He's fought a lot of decent guys in his UFC tenure. I love his overall striking. I think that if he can establish that jab and really get great output with it, then I think that initially he could bank the first couple of rounds. So I think he is live for the decision if he gets off to a quick start. For me, I just think that the big spots in this fight, Cheeto's going to have those where he could be losing a round, but then might land a strike and maybe wobble Font a little bit, push him back, look aesthetically more pleasing with his striking. And I like Vera in this spot. I think that he will hurt Font at some point. And I think that a late finish is on the table. I also think a decision's on the table. So I've laid my money down with my gut feeling that I have on Marlon Vera, and I've just liked what I've seen from him. Big fight, big main event fight. This would be big for him here if he could pull this one out. So I'm going to go out on 11, and I'm going to pick Cheeto Vera to win in rounds 4 or 5 of a decision. That's a bet I also might look at. Let's go late 4th round TKO for Cheeto Vera. That's going to be my prediction, guys. So that's my picks for this card. 25 minutes or so, about really where I wanted to kind of be. I'm now going to go and look into some fights for next week's pay-per-view. Charles Oliveira defends his UFC lightweight championship against the highlight reel, which is Justin Gaethje, down in the great state of Arizona in the beautiful city of Phoenix. So, guys, I appreciate the love and support. If you could throw a like in the video, if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Apologise for not being around the last couple of weeks, but other things came to the front there where I had to get things sorted, work in life, and being a dad, you can't have all the time in the world to do these videos. So glad to be back. We'll be back next Sunday or Monday, or this Sunday or Monday. I'll be back, I think, with the predictions for UFC in Phoenix next week. Until then, guys, all the very, very best. Take care and enjoy the card when it comes around this weekend. Peace.